Don't look now, but Bitcoin is on fire. This thing is, you can't kill it. You have to find something that you can trust and that trustless world, which is Bitcoin. You know, it is a asset class that protects you. Right, the U.S. federal government's on unstable fiscal path, and the U.S. federal government's on unstable fiscal path. You do not sell your Bitcoin. Sell your Bitcoin. You do not sell your Bitcoin. Sell your Bitcoin. Bitcoin today. Bitcoin today. Bitcoins. Bitcoin today. Bitcoins. Today. Bitcoin today. Bitcoin today.
Chad, are you playing the music today?
Uh, that's a journey and a half. I'm trying. That's all I got at the moment. I've got the soundboard. I can't get it set up. I've got a tech guy calling me this afternoon, and we'll get there.
I'm surprised you figured it out. What? Oh, and Puncher, I keep trying to bring you up as co-host, but
I'm gonna be a lousy co-host today. Today Monday is like my endless meeting Zoom call day.
oh, are you
So
back in? Are you back in the desert?
I am. Happy to be home. And
Nice.
apparently, you do sell your Bitcoin.
Yes. Well, $3.72 of 100,000. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's almost like a fee. It's less than it's 4/1000th of a percent, which
it's
cracks me up.
it's it's so funny. I did listen. I don't listen to earnings calls just because I just don't. But I did happen to listen to that one or part of it where they said they were going to sell to go after the shorts and just demonstrate, just take that kind of boogeyman away. And I'm like, oh, that's going to be interpreted no matter what you say. When that happens, you're going to see a big dip for sure in MSTR price and probably in Bitcoin for all those who don't know. But I'm loving it, man. I just bought with a 70 handle. I'm loving this dip. Loving it. Loving it.
Yeah, it's all part of the S&P inclusion strategy. It's like he's already bought that back within seconds. So everyone's just clinging to news. Paula, how's it going? We don't usually have you up here right away. What happened?
Hi. Yeah, I came in on time and I was yeah, invited to speak. I've also been following the Sailor one and yeah, it's very interesting to see what people and the the feelings out there about it. But I think Bitcoin is going to do what Bitcoin's going to do this year anyway. It's just it still seems like we're in just that chop solidation down phase. And I think if you bought recently, it was quite a difficult time. But if you know what most of people in here know, it's a great opportunity, like Puncher said. So yeah, I'm happy to be here listening to you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, if anyone wants to talk about selling, they should talk about Trump's, I think it was like 2,600 Bitcoin he sent over to crypto.com, which is probably being lined up for sale. But, who knows what he's doing. And he seems to always be ahead of whatever news is happening with Iran. So,
You don't
I'm,
understand, Terence. He sold that Bitcoin so you'd have more to buy. It's 4D chess.
well, all I know is that when you sell Bitcoin, someone buys Bitcoin. But yes, 4D, it's 5D chess. Jennifer, how's it going? Good to see you here. We haven't had you in a while.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, I've been tardy for a couple weeks, just fiat meetings and all the things.
I
But
don't feel tardy.
So good one. Actually, I'm glad Puncher's on real quick. Heading down to El Zante in just about a week or two, less than 2 weeks now. So I wanted to say congratulations, Terrence, on the Historico. And I don't know if you remember in Arizona, I was a little nervous about going, but I think it's going to be good, and going to be looking at some of the properties down there and different things like that. So may DM you, Puncher. But congratulations, Terrence, on your popping your cherry when you go down there too. So sounds like fun.
Well, Puncher's providing cover, so I'm not worried. Yeah.
Cool. Yep, doing well on a Monday here. Hope everyone's well.
We've got Charles here. Charles, what's going on? You heard us talking about Arizona or something?
Yeah, I did. Thanks for having me up. I just wanted to say hi to everybody. I just posted my first installment of my new Substack free book, um, so you could check my pinned post. It's a Bitcoin fictional serialized book. So every 2 weeks, another installment will come out. That's all I had to announce.
And we've got Disco Ball Natalie. How's it going, Natalie?
Good morning, Terence. Yeah, I guess Google is following the news of my Bitcoin journey now, thanks to you, Terence. If you pull up Google, you'll see me. There's a big, shiny pink disco ball. Literally, if I encourage you, pull up Google. There's a big, shiny disco ball. So now I'm just here for my daily dose of orange pills. Thanks. Hope everyone had a great weekend.
Amazing. Kudo, we haven't seen you, I don't think, in months. What's going on?
Terrence, what's up, man? Yeah, it's been a while. Thanks for having me up. So the 4-year cycle in terms of timing is alive and well thus far, which is actually good news because it means we only have a couple more months of this until we start going up again. But from what I can see is the hardcore 4-year cyclists who believe in that like linear correction math, that math says 38K. I just think we're running out of time. I don't think that deep hardcore correction ever comes. We got another 4 or 5 months, in my opinion, of kind of this crap that we seem to always go through for the calendar, and then it looks like we're out of it. So I don't know. I just feel like now's the time when people are shitting their pants. Like now's the time when you want to, in my opinion, now's the time. Let me put it this way: I'm buying because there's blood in the streets. So like this is the time I'm stacking. It's not when we're at all time highs. And I think we got a couple more months of this, and then we're done.
Chad, back over to you. What's on your dashboard for today? Oh, by the way, I tried to bring up Bitcoin Bull. I checked out this new app that I don't know if he vibe coded or he coded without any vibe, but it has a vibe to it. That is pretty cool. I'll let him talk about it if he pops up here. But back to you, Chad.
Yeah, well, good morning, first of all, from block 9519998. And I have gone through that with Bull, and I'm sure he will be happy to hop up when he has time to take us through it. It's exciting. I think the most exciting thing about it, in a lot of ways, is that you have somebody, with the background isn't exactly in AI, and he's done an amazing job of just adapting and using the tools that are available to produce something that, is really helpful for his vision of how he looks at this. And, it's kind of a eye opener to all of us that there's an opportunity here for all of us to improve our own way to learn in optics with the new tools that we have, and we're just really lucky to be in that time and place, and I look forward to him coming up and sharing on that. As far as agenda goes, I was kind of counting on you, Terrence, but I don't know if anybody else over the weekend saw there was something about South Africa is now requiring people to disclose their private keys. Did anybody else catch something on this? I just caught a whiff of it in a space or talking to someone, and I hadn't had a chance to follow up on it. Has anybody heard about that?
There's no such thing as disclosing your private keys. Disclosing your private keys is saying goodbye to your Bitcoin. But I think Paula's from South Africa 'cause she has that funny accent. Let's check in with her.
Yeah, they're making a law that you are not allowed to own Bitcoin in self custody. So you can buy it on an exchange and leave it there. But I'm not sure exactly how they're doing it. And I'm not technically from South Africa, Terrence. I'm from Southern Africa, and I'm technically from Zimbabwe, which is a whole different country with more authoritarian rule. But South Africa has always been quite a progressive country in their laws, but now they are clamping down on Bitcoin because obviously they see that self custody they have no control over and they want control.
Well, if you're not allowed to have Bitcoin in self custody, then they're just saying you're not allowed to have Bitcoin. I mean, there's literally no difference. And I just now learned I'm not from Southern California. I'm from South California.
There's good news. I'm making a law that says you don't have to do that. So we're good. If we're going to live lawlessly, which is what making a law that says you can't own what you own, then I'm making my own law. And you can obey my law. You don't have to obey the other law because they're never going to know anyway. So don't obey the law. Tell them to go after themselves. I'm done.
Yeah, you can't take what I know or what I don't know, and you don't even know what I know or if I know, and I don't think they
Terrence, they're
know
going to
what I
pry
know.
open your head and look into your memories.
Yeah, but that won't even work because here's why. I specifically memorized it and specifically forgot it just so they couldn't take it. Yeah, so take that.
It is funny how the authoritarians are now, after what? 16, 17 years are now figuring out, wait a minute, we can't control this thing. Oh, wait a minute. And Besant, the ridiculousness of, we seized all their crypto. No, you didn't. You're lying. You seized their Tether. You didn't seize Iran's Bitcoin, unless they were just basically stupid enough to give you their keys, which they weren't. So, like, here we go. The authoritarians are finally starting to figure out that they don't have the power they thought they had, and they can all go pound sand, and they'll panic, but their panic should not be your panic. You should be sitting back smoking a lucky, going, "Man, I'm glad I own Bitcoin," and there's not a thing they can do about it. Not a thing. Zero.
Yeah, that's why I think it's always an interesting debate, and sometimes with yourself, there's sometimes a dissonance in, am I spending Bitcoin because Bitcoin is the money? Bitcoin is absolute, perfect, beautiful money, but I also know that it's going to appreciate and grow faster than anything else, and will let me buy more and live more abundantly in the future. So how can I hang on to it but still take care of my needs? And so if they can't get your Bitcoin, if they can't get your private keys, do you need to worry about some of the more captured and eventually, maybe potentially in the future, compromised places like ETFs or collateralized loans or whatnot? I think some of those things are really good, but I also just wonder, and I hear what some people say, whether it's conspiratorial right now or not, it's like, yeah, that is a way for some kind of authority to get your Bitcoin because you no longer really have the private key, unless you're doing, a really good multi-sig or some kind of smart contract with your Bitcoin, and they're able to lend you fiat dollars on that. Other than that, people like Simon might be right in those areas where it's like, hey, Bitcoin is the money, adopt Bitcoin and just use it, spend it and live on it, save in it. Um, but I totally get and subscribe to the idea of not having to spend it, um, at least on the things that you don't. Well, I guess it depends. Everybody's situation is different, but it's an interesting subject to think about, and I think that's a lot of people say, hey, don't uh, don't collateralize your Bitcoin. You may never get it back. They can take it. They can legally take it. They technically have it if they have the keys. So it's something to think about. Of course, there's good peer to peer sites and ones where you can sort of avoid all of that. Um, you just have to be careful. Make sure you can pay the interest.
Hey, Terrence, I was
You,
hoping we could go to the tooth market as well because I saw that Jordan sold his two front teeth to pick up some Bitcoin. So, Jordan, you want to take us through that market and let us know how that works?
He's
Yeah,
playing hockey.
you can touch your friends and you can touch your private keys, but you can't touch your friends' private keys. So happy Monday, everyone. Sold some teeth to not sell some Bitcoin, and then I learned that Sailor's selling Bitcoin. So I guess I'm gonna not keep selling teeth.
I see we have Angela up here. Angela, I think you've been up here way in the past. I don't remember the conversations, but how's it going? What's on your mind?
Thank you for the mic. I'm doing well. The last time I was here, I asked the question as to why, at that time, I think Bitcoin was in the 80,000. And I asked, um, why would Bitcoin go up when it seemed as at that time that it was going down when there was so much good news and that it was going down on high volume and going up in low volume. And here we are now. My question is, it seems, well, at that time I was told that the hash rate had gone up and that, we need to focus on the hash rate. Now, I believe the hash rate has gone down and gone down significantly. And in addition to that, the number of wallets have actually contracted. And so, why do you think that in a few months, all of that is going to reverse and that Bitcoin is going to go up? My second question has to do with
Hang
um,
on,
Well, wait. Let
Andrew.
me
Hang
this.
on.
Okay.
let's address your
Okay. All
your
right.
your first question. So first of all, Bitcoin doesn't go up or down. Bitcoin just Bitcoins. One Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. It does exactly what it's promised, offering permissionless peer-to-peer payment system. Period. Now, the exchange rate, depending where you live, will go up or down. And recently, at least here in the US, the price has been going down because people are selling it. It's been money for them, and some of them have been saving for 10, 11, 12, 15 years. And so when more people sell, more Bitcoin gets sold than gets purchased, the price goes down. And that's all that's happening. So you're hearing lots of good news, but that good news helps benefit someone who has been saving for a long time in Bitcoin. So the number of wallets, in my view, the number of wallets and the hash rate is completely irrelevant to the exchange rate.
Okay, because that was not what was said the last time. And I had a little discussion with Claude. And according to Claude, in the past, when this has happened where Bitcoin has gone down, usually the number of addresses, Bitcoin addresses, have expanded and hash rate has gone up. But this time it's different.
Well, just think about what addresses are. Like do you have all your Bitcoin in one address? Have you made several addresses with one wallet? Do you have several wallets? Are you actually buying more Bitcoin or are you spreading it around? Do you have a quote unquote checking, a savings, a petty cash, an inheritance, retirement? So that's why I have a tough time with the number of wallets. And many people, even if they get new wallets or new apps or they need to use a new exchange, they don't necessarily get rid of the old ones. As a good practice, especially if you self custody, which you should be, as a good practice, you really should never get rid of any private keys, including old keys, because you just never know, or you forget who you gave an address to, or if you accidentally send to another address, you want to hang on to your private keys. I haven't found a good reason to ever get rid of private keys. And so, since some of us have been doing this for a long time, some of us might have, hundreds of wallets, even if there's nothing in them. So on chain, does it show there's hundreds of wallets and some of it just has dust in it? I'd love to hear from someone else if they have a different opinion. But so in my opinion,
Well,
that's why the number of wallets is a little bit irrelevant.
Terence, I would also say it'll continue to become irrelevant because of the ETFs. So, like in the US, a lot of people getting into Bitcoin might buy IBIT, right? They're not buying Bitcoin, put it in self storage. So, I just think as more people get into ETFs, where you think that's a good or a bad thing, that reduces the demand for wallets. So, I don't think it's a great metric to, you can also look at like how many people own 0.1 Bitcoin, 1 Bitcoin, all those metrics are going up. But I don't think, I agree with you. I don't think the wallets is a good metric at all, especially because of these other devices people can acquire for Bitcoin now.
AC, do you have an opinion on that? AC tends to be a really good technical analyst in this area, so curious what he thinks.
Yeah, thanks, Terrence. I just threw a comment and I'll add it here to the nest shortly. First, I'd like to kind of address the hash rate thing. I don't know the last time we talked about this topic, but from my perspective, yes, hash rate is down from 1.2 or 1,200 exahash to, I don't know, 1,000. So not that big of a deal. It hasn't gone down significantly over a long period of time. So I kind of question that part of it. Number two, when we talk about wallets, that's a misnomer. there's no way to actually count the number of wallets. We can see the number of addresses that hold a meaningful amount of Bitcoin, but we can't say with certainty how many wallets are out there and if the number of wallets have gone down.
I
We can
mean
say that
addresses.
the number of addresses that hold a meaningful amount. And I actually haven't looked at that. I'm kind of curious. Certainly we'll take a look. But those 2 points actually don't quite make sense to me.
So, what would you use then as an objective measure to say, well, okay, under the price might be going down because they're selling macroeconomics, whatever, but we know that things are okay and that Bitcoin is actually growing and spreading. What metrics would you use?
Hey, Anon, you don't have to raise your hand now that you're sitting in that chair, so just speak up.
Cool. I would just make a comment that reflects the opinion about the ETFs. If you think about the way that Bitcoin price action has moved since the beginning of this year, you have to remember that a lot of people that were buying it up to 126 were speculating on the Trump administration doing the strategic Bitcoin reserve, and a lot of it was in ETFs. So I consider that unsustainable growth, like basically short-term speculators, people coming into the space that had really no understanding of the fundamentals of Bitcoin. And we saw the price correct down to where it is now. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It just meant that people's attention moved to the next shiny object. But fundamentally, nothing has changed about Bitcoin that would make me change my opinion about why it's perfect money. So when I look at the trend zooming out, we're basically on a straight line up if you look at the 5 year. So nothing has changed for me. So what makes me think it's going to go up? I would ask the question, what makes me think it's going to go down? Because the trend is up.
Yeah, Angela, and I would add one thing. That's why I always start the day when I come on stage talking about the where we are from block height. To me, that is the indicator of are we healthy or not. Are we issuing a new block? Are we discovering a new block every 10 minutes on average, right? If the answer to that is yes, my thesis is sound. And I'd also ask you, what got you into Bitcoin? Like, why do you hold the asset? What to you is important?
Well, I got into Bitcoin pretty early on and didn't really know the value of it, and kind of sold it and then got back and started stacking. I believe in the technology and I see a benefit in being able to hold on to have self custody of your assets because I don't necessarily trust the financial system. And it's comforting to me to know that to have that control over wealth and the possibility that it could appreciate and we're in this early cycle, so for all those reasons I bought it. However, when Mark Cuban sold, that kind of jarred me and it made me go
So you
back.
respect Mark Cuban a lot, do you?
I do kind of, yeah.
The
um
guy who told you to get vaccinated, that guy?
no,
That's the
no,
dude you respect?
yeah, I
Told you
kind
you
of
were gonna you
I
were killing
like
people by
him.
not getting vaccinated? Oh, okay.
Paul
So,
Well,
Tudor
listen,
Jones.
If Mark Cuban is your metric on whether or not to own Bitcoin,
wh-
I would say respectfully, you probably shouldn't own the
well,
asset.
it's not that he's my metric, but it was just, you always hear Jamie Dimon going on and, Warren
Jamie
Buffett and all
Dimon.
of, but then to have, someone who has been in it and selling, and then he's not the only one. It made me go back and query Claude as far as what's going on with Bitcoin. And
Oh,
that's
Claude.
when, Claude
Angela,
told,
Android, can I just
okay.
tell you that Bitcoin is not an asset you can own on somebody else's conviction or lack of conviction. You have to do the work. That's the concept of proof of work. And if you don't understand Bitcoin, and respectfully, it sounds like you don't, you might want to
Mm.
you might want to hold off and maybe,
Can I make a quick point, Puncher
wait
and Terrence?
wait one sec, Kudo. Angela,
Yep.
we brought up a special person for you to say a few words. His name is TC, and he just has a few words for you. So listen carefully.
Difficulty. average block time, hash rate.
Okay, see, he's a man of few words, Angela, but you're gonna let that sink in, and we can revisit. Kudo, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. Hey, I just want to say on the hash rate aspect, Angela, I do think hash rate is a valid metric to look at the health of Bitcoin, not necessarily deterministic of price, but the health of the network. And the hash rate, Angela, is only down 10% from the all-time high in like October. It's down 10% when Bitcoin's down 50%. So when I look at the hash rate, I'm looking at it right now on BM Pro. It's very healthy, you know. And the other thing I would want to say is there's nothing like congrats to you for kind of like floating like, hey, I'm kind of having some doubts. There's nothing wrong with that. Like it takes some courage, especially in a room like this, to kind of say your doubts. But I think ultimately, like if you want to, Paul Tudor Jones is bullish on Bitcoin, so you're gonna listen to Paul Tudor Jones, or you're gonna listen to the dude who owns a basketball team, you know. So I think Puncher's right at the end. You got to kind of like check your own convictions and do what you think. But I think the hash rate's healthy here, so I'm not worried.
Also, Angela, this may have contributed to it, but over the weekend I did unplug my miner because I'm taking it to a different room, and so I will be plugging that back in later today. So that contributed to it. You lost some hash rate there.
Angela, you said you've been in Bitcoin for quite a while. How long is quite a while?
Around 2013, 14.
Oh
No, I
boy,
don't believe that. I don't.
no way.
No
Angela.
way.
Yes, yes, believe it or not, I was on the
Okay, how did
internet.
you buy it?
It
Walk me
was
through how you
okay.
bought it in
So in
2013.
two,
Tell me,
yeah, it
walk me
was
through it.
hard. It
Yeah,
was hard. It was really hard. So, now it's easy. And then you had Coinbase and Binance.
it
Initially,
was
when
hard.
someone
Like, can
told
you
me,
explain to me?
okay, so,
Can you
so
explain
what,
to me how it
how
was
did
hard?
I find
How
out
did you
about
do it?
it? So I
No, no.
was,
How did you buy it? How did you physically buy it
I
in
bought
2013?
it. I believe I bought it through Coinbase.
Okay.
I bought it through
Um.
Coinbase. Um,
Okay. So you've been through three and a half epochs now, and these dips in price get you concerned still?
I'm just, I guess I want to be objective, and I want to, there are times when you hold on to an investment and, you hold on for years thinking that, yes, it's going to go up because of fundamentals, and it does nothing. Okay.
But
And so
you've been getting it since 300, 400, $500. So let's just look at it as
right,
just an investment
but
and
then
ignore
I
everything
didn't know
else.
what Bitcoin was. I didn't know what it was, and I was foolish because, as
But you
Puncher
do
said,
now.
I did sell it. Okay, I collected and so, and then afterwards, I started to learn more about it, and I said, okay, I now see where it's going, and I started to stack Sats. I am stacking. However, I want to know that I'm going in the right direction. And so I don't know, it's one thing to say, oh, it's going to go up and it's going to go up to 10 million, 20 million and all of that. That's nice. But how do we follow that? How do we know that it's on that trajectory? Um,
Because the dollar's on the exact opposite trajectory. That's how we know.
but then this
Do
more.
you think? Do you think that we're gonna somehow stop printing money out of thin air, or do you think that's going to continue unabated forever?
Then I heard today that, stable coins are gonna revive the dollar. So that's, it's sort
Well,
of a
who'd you hear
bit
that from?
confusing
Mark Cuban? Did Mark
environment.
Cuban tell you
No,
that?
no, no. Actually, was it? It was this morning on my Finance Daily. I think it was what is
Oh,
it?
who was it? Do you
I
remember?
think it was Dave. Well, I can't remember who said it, but it was that was the general consensus in that space.
Oh, well, if that's the general consensus.
So how will
Look,
stablecoins revive the dollar? I think that's an important thing to investigate how that functions. Do you understand what they're proposing to do with that?
I guess it would be a source of buying the dollar.
So
Uh,
yeah, they're socializing the debt of the entire nation to normal everyday citizens by basically turning your savings into mandatory purchasing of treasuries. So if you want to be party to that, then that's how they're going to save the dollar, quote unquote. But that's just extending the scam and kicking the debt further out, right?
Hey, Angela, a couple things. One, first of all, thanks for coming up. Second of all, you're constantly under attack, as is everybody in this room, from the fiat system and people that don't understand what this is, right? You know, this room is special because you've got some really brutal personality types in here, to be candid. But the reality is, these are the people that, when the system breaks, because it will, it's just when, are likely to start lay the foundation of the next system that hopefully is built on truth, honesty, transparability, accountability, and etc. So don't, it's totally okay to feel like this. My 2 cents to you would be the following: you've been through this before, so this isn't new. Thank God, because if it's new to you, this is, really uncomfortable. But I would tell you, if your main denominator of your wealth probably should be in Bitcoin, but at the same time, you have a limited lifespan. And if you do want to take some off the top, I respect that. But I kind of laugh at OGs that sell in this area. Like, it's nuts, in my opinion. Wait till we get another run, and we will. Wait till we're in, I don't know, pick a number today, 150, 160. Great. That would make sense. If you want to, just shave a little bit, that makes sense with limit orders out there. Put them out there now, figure it out in ahead of time. But don't, this is nuts down here. I mean, listen to kudos buying. I've been accumulating. I'm uncomfortable because of how much I have at this point, which is weird for me to say. But like, the truth is, set up your game plan for decades. Set it up for 5 years. People are going to come out, and I mean, profit with rat poison, etc. Let's go to Jennifer. She's got her hand up, but Angela, and always feel free to come to the Wednesday night space, because it's a little bit softer in there, and psychology is important. Jennifer, what's happening?
Hey, no, I think this is a great discussion. I appreciate Angela, just putting it out there, because I think it's, I haven't been in it as long as she has, so it's, these up and downs are a little bit um, troubling, or they definitely trial you. Um, but I do have good support in terms of friends and colleagues that truly do understand, and it is helpful. I just want to point out, like, Gary was having some good conversations with folks last night, and even on the morning finance shows, about how he's got capital coming soon and he wants to deploy it, and he's really thinking about how it could return a lot more in this little crack up, or not little crack up boom, but in this kind of crack up, where everything is going up except Bitcoin. And I mean, I get that. I appreciate that. And I've thought about it too. I've got trapped capital in retirement plans and so on. And what are you going to do with certain things? And there is absolutely fast money to be made in the fiat game arena for sure. But at the same time, I don't know if anybody else here follows Jordy Visser closely. I know Dark does, but he always has really great macro videos every week. And it really struck me, and I don't think I said it correctly in my post, but I noticed back when Bitcoin started being a ticker on CNBC, the S&P, the Nasdaq, all these other things. I'm like, there's more to this than they're saying. And when they were laughing about the commentators are laughing about agentic payments and so on, and here we are a month or two later after they say it, and that's a real thing. The thing that struck me is that Bitcoin could well be kind of the index that we all look towards. It's definitely the barometer of what's happening to the dollar and its demise, for sure. I mean, it has strength right now because Bitcoin's down, dollar strong, but that is definitely going to be changing. And so I think keeping those fundamentals in mind is good. I'll land the plane there because I know that. The S&P 500 is not a good thing that you want to say the index is, because we're not trying to live in the fiat world that much longer. However, it does seem to be pointing towards everything as the index for everything, including AI and agentic payments and all these things that are coming. So it's a lot more to it. We have to keep studying for sure.
Hey, India, before you take us on a magical carpet ride, I see Uncle Scrotum has joined us. Uncle,
Scrotum. Did you say Uncle Scrotum?
did you have? Well, I just see Uncle SCRO on my screen, so I assumed it was Uncle
Oh,
Scrotum.
yeah, Uncle Scrotum. You're that Bitcoin being made in the background?
Anyways, did you have
Anyway,
anything to
yeah,
contribute, or we'll go to India?
yeah. I'm very positive. I feel a lot of these spaces have gotten very depressed. I don't know why. There's nothing wrong with Bitcoin. First thing you learn in investing is risk assets hate chaos and uncertainty. And we're sitting here pretending we don't know why Bitcoin is in fear. It's the nonstop chaos and uncertainty. We had 2025, endless positive catalysts versus tariff on, tariff off, tariff on, tariff off, chaos. What am I going to tweet on a Friday night? And then now a $1 billion day war because he doesn't listen to his advisors. I don't know how to say this. Twitter is not the real world. A lot of people live here on Twitter and they're sheltered. Okay? There's nothing wrong with Bitcoin. It just hates the chaos. Our prediction at the last bull run, blow off top, ask Grok, Cloud, whatever which one you want to ask. The last prediction average was 250K Bitcoin October 2025. That got kneecapped in half by Captain Chaos. First with his meme coins, and then nonstop chaos. It's just sad to me.
Hey, did someone fat thumb the mute button?
I did. The darn mute everyone is right next to requests, and I thought I was hitting requests. Sorry.
It's okay. Don't do
Oh,
that.
where did I stop?
It doesn't matter. I think we got the point. Why don't we head over to India and then to Kudo?
Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks, guys.
Hi guys, how are you all doing? I hope you're having a good Monday morning. So, I'm just going to start up in the absence of Robert with my macro rant
No,
of
no, no,
today.
no.
So, I think that
India.
inflation
I'm
is going to
telling
be
you right now. You have 3 minutes. It's 12:08. We're putting you at
okay.
12:11. Go for it.
Okay. I'm going to try and finish it in 5. Okay. Give me the additional
No,
2 minutes.
no, no. You
So,
get
I
three.
think inflation peaks in Q3. Energy will top 6 months after equities. The business cycle is late. Everybody in the serious macro world actually will agree with me, except the lawyer Joe Carlasari. So I have a three-stage thesis. The three-stage thesis is the first stage is a defensive rate hike in Q3 by the Fed, because not that they want to do it, but they just have to maintain hawkish credibility, as CPI is going to run at 6.5%. It's going to be an astounding number. Nobody is willing to bet on it right now. I'm willing to bet on it. Now, I think most of the people are just not understanding that the treasuries rallied in 2008 when Lehman collapsed. So that's why it gave the Fed time to think, to negotiate TARP, to structure it, to do QE. I think that transmission mechanism is now broken. We saw a glimpse of that in March 2025 last year when the equities crashed. Treasuries didn't rally. Yields actually went up alongside equities going down. That's not a normal recession signal. That's a balance of payment stress signal. The safe haven is no longer safe at the margins. But why am I saying all this? I'm just saying this because I'm seeing it from a sovereign debt crisis. I mean, a long-term debt crisis level, as Ray Dalio points out. I'm not looking at it, like a structured technical analyst who's looking at charts and saying, I'm looking at it from the point of view that Bitcoin is going to be the biggest beneficiary from this. And Bitcoin is not going to go up in a straight line. It will get hit in the initial crash. That's when my stage 2 and stage 3 collapse. Stage 2 is basically a forced cut, when the markets price in a cut and the political decision to make it easy for the Fed happens. And stage 3 is the nuclear print, like Luke Groman says. And I completely agree with his, with his macro thinking. So I'm of the opinion that Bitcoin, not of the opinion, everybody knows that equities have counterparty risk. Corporate earnings will get crushed because of margin compressions, because of inflation, which I just mentioned is going to go up to 6.5%. Bonds, the counterparty is the government's ability to honor real purchasing power. Real estate's counterparty is the mortgage market, interest rates, and employment. Gold has no counterparty, but it has no velocity, no portability, no programmability. Bitcoin has no counterparty, and it has all the ideal characteristics for the 21st century. It's a fixed supply.
Why is
All right,
most
guys.
Indian
India's
food like?
muted there at 2:11. So who are we going to next? Terrence, Kudo, then Bitcoin,
Well,
then or
let's
Bull,
go
then
first to
unsupervised.
unsupervised, just because we don't always have the ladies up here. And then, yeah, I think Bull's had his hand up.
Hey, thanks for bringing me up, Terrence. I am, yeah, I mean, I love listening to all of this, but there's just this voice in me that's just like, I just don't care. I don't care about Bitcoin as an investment. And I know that sounds wacky or crazy, but I just, it's the It's the freedom to me that it gives everyone everywhere. And maybe there's a simplicity in not having a lot, there's a gift and a simplicity in not having a lot to lose, because you see it is the only way for many, many people around the world to have their privacy with their money, to everything that Bitcoin offers that fiat doesn't. And I don't know, maybe it's a gift when it's your only way. And you see the world that has the ability and the privilege to worry about losing their money. And I get that, as an investment. I mean, I understand that. I'm not judging, but that world is gone for most people. For to build to build something from nothing, that system, that door closed for most people in the world, and Bitcoin is their only way and their only hope. So I just had to throw that out there.
But
Love you guys.
unsupervised, do you like Indian food? Because it like a lot of it is like baby food kind of. It's all kind of mushy.
I'm more of a Mexican food girl.
Yeah, yeah. I prefer tacos over like I don't know liquidy spinach. Hey, Bitcoin Bull.
What's going on, Terence Battle? Bitcoin ain't on. I heard you guys speaking on the app earlier. I couldn't jump in. I was with a customer, but yeah, I pretty much vibe code. Not pretty much. I did vibe code everything, and did you get a chance to check it out, Terence?
Yeah, I checked it out. I really liked it, and I don't know what screen I was on, but my name was in there for some reason. But I'm still going through it. There was a lot of pages. But yeah, if you want to, just throw up your post or whatever in the nest, and people can check it out, and we can talk about it another day what it is. But I think if people just sort of serendipitously flip through it, they'll see the value it has with news and price and power law and fundamentals and whatnot. I don't know. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I have a lot of information there. I just added the Paolo the other day. I try to add whatever we talk about here in spaces and your Bitcoin today or Fred's pages, and everybody always talks about the good tools or anything involve Bitcoin. I try to put it all in one place on the app. So it definitely has a lot of information. The data tab has an extreme amount of information. The calculator. Tool is pretty cool. The wallet lookup. It has a lot of things. I work on it every day. But yeah, like I mentioned, I'm just a landlord and a licensed electrician. So I did this all without having no background code experience at all. So I suggest anybody, if you take a look at the app and how much information and how much detail and information it has on it, if I could do it, anybody else could do it. So I definitely recommend everybody fool around with AI if you haven't yet.
Thanks, Bull. Hey, I see. Gary, did you get your account back? You're back to your old profile picture.
I did, my boy. I did.
Wow.
I did. Yes, sir. Good morning.
Is there any
Good morning.
cautionary tale for anyone else here who might lose their account? Did you
Yeah,
were you a
when
bad boy?
you no, I didn't do anything wrong. Look, I think this was a issue of security. Sometimes is senior to convenience, and I wasn't hacked. I changed my telephone to a 17 Pro. Uh, all my other two factors moved with it, except Twitter, and so I just had a two factor issue on it. So I would make sure that your two factor copies over to your new phone before you erase it. That's what happened. It wasn't an X problem, really. It was my problem. X's issue is that they have no customer service, so it takes a week to get an email, and they just released it. I mean, basically, they hit a button, dude, and let me in. So no big deal, inconvenient, but it also made me think. It gave me pause to think about how much time I had been spending on this and whether or not that time was really valuable, a good investment of my time. Um, that was quite interesting to see how, let's see, automatic it's become for me to want to see what my buddies are doing in spaces. Just as I was watching news, but I'm digesting a whole lot more than I am news. Um, so that's been interesting just to look at hey, what would I do if I didn't have this app? Where's my news come from? How do I communicate with my buddies? Do I have any buddies really? Am I building a community here, or is this actually not really a community? It's a temporary, you go to a party, you see a bunch of people, and then you leave. That's not a community, right? So it's made me really question a whole lot of things about what I'm doing here with this investment. I think we are all making an investment in this space. Um,
Gary, I remember
Hopefully.
2 weeks ago you were saying it was tough to be sitting on the sidelines while Bitcoin was going up. How are you feeling today? You aping in now?
No, I think that Bitcoin has more to go. I think Bitcoin's weak here. There's nothing that is going to convince me that it's not weak here. And, I've maintained the view that keeping a foot in the TradFi world and keeping a big foot in Bitcoin offers me arbitrage that the TradFi guys don't have. I will continue to exploit the opportunities that TradFi give me along with the Bitcoin. So I just don't see between now and October that Bitcoin's going to go on this enormous run and get us over $97,000. I just don't see it. Okay. I don't see, unless, and this is a pet peeve of mine, unless the whales, 3.5, 4 million coins that were bought below $1,000, those whales start actually, you know, buying real Bitcoin at $70,000 and chunks of it, not DCA and $15 a month, so that they can say on Spaces, "Hey, I DCA every month." Their average cost should be 35,000, not 3,000. And until that changes, or we get outside companies and people, real wealth, buying Bitcoin, I don't see that changing. I think people are going to chase IBM, Dell, MU, ADM, and the world they know, and all their advisors are going to push them too. And some of these companies are up a massive amount, man. You cannot defy that we have something going on in TradFi we have not seen in, well, I've never seen what's going on right now. So no, I'm not aping it. I think I'm going to buy $66,000 Bitcoin. Now I will buy a lot of it. Okay, like a lot, like hundreds of Bitcoin at that level, and that's what we need, man. I mean, don't you guys agree? We need new buyers with new cash, not old cash, new cash, and you need it from somewhere other than the altcoin market, because every time they sell altcoins, that then hurts the Bitcoin market. So I may have this all wrong. I don't think I do. But until I can see a thesis that's different than what I just explained, I don't see a reason for people to ape in. I just don't. I can't wait till that moment happens, but I don't think it's going to happen the next 3 months.
Yeah, I think dollar
Hey,
cost
Gary.
averaging continues to be the most responsible thing to do. And where a lot of people like to point out, oh, we've mostly been sideways over, 5-year period or whatever. If you've been dollar cost averaging, you're actually up almost 30% because you do get to take advantage of all those dips. So for the people who aren't whales like you, Gary, or like Kudo, for most people, they should just be dollar cost averaging.
Yeah,
Kudo.
and Gary, I want to give you. Well, let me hop in. I want to thank you for something you said last week or the week before. You were talking about the opportunity cost of not participating in TradFi, and I really thought long and hard about it. And where I landed was something important about time preference. This run that we're seeing in AI is really skewing people's time preference to feel like they're missing something. And it's been my investing history that when that happens, you're getting really frothy. I don't know whether that's right or not, but thank you for pointing that out, because you're 100% right, and it's really insightful. And I went back and read a lot about time preference over the last week, and I encourage everybody to do the same, because things that mess with your time preference are usually warning signs from the fiat system. Over to Kudo.
Hey, Chodo,
Yeah.
can you give some more color on that? Because I think you're like, I think it's a really interesting point. I'd like to just understand a little bit more how you see
Sure.
the time and the opportunity cost.
Yeah, I'll keep it under a minute or so. We could take it up offline. But roughly speaking, it's this way. When I first read the Bitcoin standards, the first time I'd been exposed to time preference as a concept, I was aware of it, but I never saw it labeled or something. And everything seemed backwards all of a sudden, right? And the higher your time preference, the more urge you have to spend your money. And when you have a run in AI like we have, this just to me, just apologies, it feels like the dot-com bubble all over again. That time was like what's the hot stock? How do I get in? How do I, just money was just pouring into that stuff. And if you remember, Henry Blodgett came out from, I believe it was Maryland. He was like, he put some number on it, and I think he got fired over it. And I actually grew up with Henry as an analyst. But the point is, like, the time preference gets skewed into being a higher time preference. When people feel broke, that's when they have that really high time preference. Whereas wealthy people tend to have a much longer time preference because and they're more thoughtful about investing. So the overarching point is that the people that come in now, and I think you're right about, the whales and those when they really start buying in size, it has to do with their investing. They're not trading. They're buying it for 5, 10, maybe longer even time period. So it gets skewed by what's happening in the market. Does that help?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree mostly. I just think, well, I think it's a great conversation, how to manage your money. That's really what we're talking about, how to manage money or wealth. And anyway, love to hear anybody else that has a contra on the summer issue. I just think we're weak here. And would love to be able to say something differently. It just doesn't look promising at this, month or two. We'll see though.
Hey, let's hit Dark before Kudo, if you don't mind, just since he's not always available.
Top of the day to you, Terence. How you doing? Um,
Beautiful.
so yeah, I'm glad we're on this topic of shiny objects, AI, the bubble that I don't know if I want to call it a bubble, but look, there's some crazy stuff going on in AI right now. Michael Berry, the famous trader and author of The Big Short, put out a research piece over the weekend. I don't know if anyone caught it, but it's
Yeah,
really
I saw it.
important. Yeah, it's really important, and I think, look, this is peak fiat, right? Like when I kind of did all the homework on this thing. There's an account, Bull Theory, that wrote a piece, and I'd like to read a little bit of it just to kind of bring the audience up to speed on what's going on here. Um, so Burry's pointing out that NVIDIA, the world's largest AI company, sold $5.4 billion worth of its most advanced GPUs, the GP200, to a company called Valor. Valor is not a real operating business; it's a special purpose vehicle. We heard a lot about SPVs back in 08, 09. Um, so this SPV is a shell company created specifically to hold the chips and nothing else. NVIDIA, who sold the chips to Valor, also invested 1.9 billion of its own money into Valor on top of the sale. So there's
Dark. Who
100,000.
owns Valor?
So I'll get there. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
So those 100,000 plus chips are now physically inside of Elon's XAI's data centers, right? XAI is the one that builds Grok. Everybody knows that, right? But here's what Burry's flagging: neither NVIDIA nor XAI own those chips on paper. Valor, the shell company, holds legal title. That means that 5.4 billion in GPU assets do not show up on Nvidia's balance sheet as inventory. They do not show up on XAI's balance sheet as assets. They are legally invisible to both companies. So Nvidia gets to book 5.4 billion as a completed sale and record it as revenue. XAI gets to use the chips without owning them, and the risk disappears into a shell company which sits in the middle. Now, to Gary's point, who is Valor? Okay, Valor needed $3.5 billion in debt to fund this structure. So where did they go? Valor went to Apollo. Right, Apollo Management is one of the largest asset managers on earth, over $1 trillion under management, and
This is where everybody needs to pay attention right here.
834 billion specifically in private credit. And this is where things are going to get crazy. Okay, Apollo raised the 3.5 billion, packaged it into debt securities, and sold those securities to Athene. Athene is Apollo's own insurance company. It sells fixed and indexed annuities, retirement savings products to ordinary Americans. When a retiree buys an Athene annuity, they believe their money's sitting in safe, stable investments. That money is now inside a structure funding AI data centers. The numbers inside Athene are almost alarming. Athene holds 74.2 billion in reserves. It has moved 217 billion in assets into a captive insurer based in Bermuda, meaning those assets sit outside of the entire Athene portfolio. 34.7% equal to 103 billion is classified as level 3 assets. Level 3 is an accounting classification that means there's no observable market price for the assets, meaning they're completely illiquid. There's no way to price the value of those assets. No outside party can independently verify what they are actually worth because they're completely illiquid. The leverage sitting on top of those unpriced assets is 16 times. So you have a core group of assets totaling 103 billion that are you cannot put a price on them because they're too illiquid. And then because they're in Bermuda, they're levering those assets 16 times. So 16 times 100 billion is 1.6 trillion.
On 863 billion of assets,
Yes, sir.
right? That's their total assets, including this package. Look, I think your comment about peak fiat, dude, that's absolutely
I,
where we're at. Peak
Gary, yeah,
fiat.
peak fiat, right? So let me
Could
just
go for a
summarize
while,
this
though.
in
Could go for a while,
oh, no
right?
question, right? You're not calling the top. I'm just giving you what Burry says. So Burry says every step of the structure is technically legal and is publicly disclosed. That's how we know about it. But the entire thing was deliberately engineered across 8 to 12 steps to move credit risk off balance sheets and away from any fair market pricing. NVIDIA's booking the revenue, Apollo collects the fees, XAI gets the computing power, and the retirees sitting at the bottom of the 16x levered Bermuda insurance structure, holding 103 billion in assets with no market price, carry all of the risk.
Dark, the piece
And
that's not, sorry for interrupting you, but the piece that's not identified is what is Elon having to pay? He's effectively
yeah,
renting.
that's not disclosed. I did not see what the
Wow.
lease price.
That's a huge outpoint. Like there has to be some kind of
Well, there's got to
transfer
be
of
a lease,
funds.
right?
Dude, they
Well,
can't get them for
well, wait
free,
a
can
minute.
they?
Well, like this is the problem with peak fiat, right? Like we just don't know. One would assume that these are good leases, right? Gary, I asked that same question you just asked. Okay, well, where's the revenue? Now, what's interesting about this circular structure is there's one company here that has no risk, right? And that's NVIDIA because they're getting the money. They're selling the chips and they're getting paid. Everybody else in this scenario is at risk. I guess one could say Elon doesn't have much risk because if he just defaults, then the US government's going to have to step in and bail out the retirees as the annuities go bust. But what, like, when you read this and you go through it and spend a few hours just trying to play with it, and I plugged it into AI, asked a million questions, you get to the exact point Gary said. This is peak fiat. Like none of this makes any sense. And yet it's completely legal, completely above board, fully disclosed. And there's only one guy who's willing to call it out and say, whoa, whoa, whoa. How did all of the risk in this transaction get pushed down to the retiree, to the guy who's buying an annuity to your grandmother? Like, that's really what's happened here. Now, what's the
Dude, I
risk?
think it happened when BlackRock, when Fink says, hey, we're going to take all the pensions and all the 401ks and we're going to invest it into the future. And you're coming with us, right? That's what
Well,
this is really about. I mean, I think that's what Barry's leaving out.
well, maybe, but remember the degree of leverage that's on top of these assets make it such that if we get a downturn, if the AI story doesn't turn out exactly like they think it is, and in order for it to turn out exactly like they think it is, by 2029, OpenAI needs to have $100 billion in revenue. and we can debate this all day long, right? Like, I don't see it making it. I think there's maybe, one case in which they make it and five cases in which they don't make it. But already we're starting to see the the open source, let's call them Chinese models, your Gwens, your Kimmys, they're beginning to outperform the large scale LLMs, the Groks, the Claudes, and the Open AIs on a weekly and monthly basis, meaning more tokens are going into cheaper models than are going into these gigantic US models. So the competition's already ramping up massively. The cost of having people just jamming everything in the world into Claude is getting to be too high for corporations. They're realizing, what am I getting myself into? The bills, imagine Claude tokens, inside a company like IBM, right? And then just imagine every single, developer is running $5,000 a month bills. What they thought was going to save them a lot of money is now costing them even more money. So all of this is built on an assumption that we cannot not just have a recession, like we can't even have a little pullback now. This needs to everything needs to go perfectly in order for this not to blow up. And that's not saying it's going to blow up. Maybe everything goes perfectly. But I've been around long enough to know, like, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. So anyway, I don't want to take the whole show. I just wanted to lay this out because I think it's really important.
For the room temperature IQs in the room like myself, I put my favorite chart in the comments. It's the Gartner hype cycle, which basically shows the V chart for how adoption works in fiat. So every time there's new technology, it always follows that chart. So ask yourself where AI is on it.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dark, and for connecting those dots. That was really interesting. I was not aware of any of that. Kudo, apologies. Thank you for giving Dark back cuts, but he has to jump off a lot of times. So
All good, Terrence.
you're
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Kudo,
No, I
before
want.
before you go, just a PSA to
Oh,
everybody.
poor
Remember 2 months
Kudo.
ago,
Kudo keeps getting pushed back.
Golly, well, yeah, unbelievable.
2 months ago, we had, or whatever, we had Nick Nemeth on the room talking about private credit and life insurance and everything that's hidden underneath those in the Bermuda companies. I just want to point that out, and let's not lose track of that. Kudos, sorry.
That's okay. So, hey, Dark, real fast. So I wanted to link back to what Gary was talking about, but that was interesting, Dark. Did Burry, so TLDR, he thinks, yes or no, does he think that this is an AI bubble and it's going to pop? And did he give any other details on when that might happen or what to look for? Just curious what he might have said.
Nobody knows that, Kudo.
I know.
Yeah,
Dark, what do you say?
I think the way he lays it out, there's nothing illegal. He calls it all fugazi, right? And the reason why he calls it fugazi is because risk is being transferred to the people that can't afford to take the risk. The same exact thing happened in 08, 09,
Uh,
right?
yeah.
Risk was transferred out of the hands of Goldman Sachs and into AIG, which was then backed up by the insurance industry, which would then had to be bailed out by the US government, right? So this is a very similar structure. Again, he's not saying that it can't work. He's saying that it's highly likely that it won't work. And I think that's probably accurate,
Mm.
but
Yeah. So,
you can always sneak Sally through the alley, right? Like it's possible that the revenue numbers in these things just blow up. I think it's more likely that you and I end up bailing the entire structure out.
yeah. So my read on this has been with all the AI investment and all the money coming into it and then the stock valuations, my read has been that the market's saying AI is going to be the next industrial revolution. It's going to bring about this kind of productivity explosion. These LLMs are going to be so fucking productive that you better shove every dollar you've got because these stocks are gonna boom, right? And I think to
Hold
your
on.
point, I
But
think to your
Kudo,
Dark, let me finish, man. Let me finish.
Real quick,
Okay.
though. Think about this. The argument against that would be if that's the case, why would you transfer the risk
Mm,
downstream to the retiree, why wouldn't you take the risk yourself? Right?
Yeah.
That's the question you have to
Well,
ask yourself.
that's a
Because if
fucking
what you're
that's a
saying
good
is
question.
true, they're they're not betting on it, they're betting against it.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. My thinking on this has been that like this is the message. It's going to be so productive. You want to plow every dollar into it, and the equities have been reflecting that. But the problem I see with this is, yeah, LLMs are good, but it's kind of like LLMs are like technology piece number one. There's going to be more efficient systems coming out, so you've got all this investment that might get wasted. One, two. I don't think that LLMs are the I don't think they're as productive as people have made them out to be. If there was an article last week, the Uber CEO said that they're blowing through their like Claude Enterprise token subscriptions. So it's just burning money up in the company and they're pulling back. He's pulling his engineers back from using the AI so much because it's cost them so much money, which tells me this. It tells me that their gains from they're paying more for the AI than the productivity they're getting from the AI. Right. So they're pulling back from the AI because it's not giving them the advances that they need. And so I'm agreeing with you that these stocks are so overvalued that if LLMs, which I don't really think that they are, if they're not the panacea, right, and they're not going to bring about like this next amazing like change the world, I don't think they will. I think they'll be good tools. Then I think it's a bubble. I mean, that's what it looks like to me, just from like the most macro perspective possible. We'll see. But I wanted to loop back to some stuff Gary was talking about. Can I do that, guys?
Kuro, I'd like to add something to Doc here, and I think this is very important for everybody in this group to understand that, ultimately the Fed will be forced to, actually print money into an oil spike. What I mean by an oil spike is forget the oil part, it's an inflation point. The inflation is going to be rampant, but the Fed will be still forced to actually print into that environment, and they're going to be explicitly choosing inflation over solvency. And this is where this bubble is finally.
Sorry, Kudo, we've been cutting you off too much. Please have your
It's okay.
question over to
What
Gary.
happened to the magic
I
carpet
appreciate it.
ride? Wow.
I muted him.
Okay.
Hey, Gary, I don't think you were in the room, but when I opened up, I was saying that Bitcoin is. I think we're gonna do more sideways to downwards action till about October. That Bitcoin does look weak, so I agree with kind of what you're saying, but I'd be curious. I think our reasoning might be different, but my suspicion is we kind of grind sideways to lower for another like 4 to 6 months. So I'm not trying to like time the bottom in terms of I'm not trying to time the bottom in terms of price because I kind of feel like in some sense that's kind of a fool's game. But I am looking at the bottom in terms of timing, right? So I just wanted to say that you and I are in a point of agreement about weakness over these next 4 to 6 months. But then I want to span this out a little bit broader. uh, I think it's McScrooge. He was saying earlier about like the sentiment in the room, like everything's down. I mean, dude, when price is down and these rooms are all depressed, but then when we're near all-time highs and these rooms are excited, it really needs to be the exact opposite. If you fundamentally believe in Bitcoin, and one of these unsupervised was talking about earlier, and she did a good job talking about it. If you believe that it's like literally a freedom technology and it's a weapon against kind of dystopian government, then you know what? Fuck the price in some sense, right? But if you're also thinking about the price, which I do, and that's completely fine, then oh my gosh, when there's blood in the streets, okay, fuck being depressed. That's when you need to be loading up if you believe in it. And if you want to shave a little bit off the top at an all-time high, well, I'm not going to tell you not to. I'll tip my hat to you. But I just, the sentiment in these rooms. I mean, if you believe in the asset, and when
Kudo,
when
to
the
be
market,
fair, no one in here is depressed. You're the one that comes in here occasionally and
Oh,
talks about price.
Kudo's making
We're not
some decent,
talking about price.
but I think he's making some decent
well, Gary
points
talked about it.
on this particular conversation. Look, you can't deny Bitcoin is weak. Okay, now when Dark mentions the word
Hang on,
peak,
Gary. I'm going to interrupt you there.
peak,
Yeah, I
Hang
have
on,
my
hang on,
last
guys.
point, guys.
Hang on. Price is weak, Gary. I agree. Bitcoin has
Yeah,
never been stronger. That's the only thing that you don't.
yeah,
100.
yeah. I'm just
right.
listen. I have not
Hey,
look.
Gary, I
I
have
have
one more
not.
sentence. I have one
Wait,
more sentence, and then I'm done. One more sentence. Here's all I'm saying, guys. whenever the market's depressed from like a trading perspective, in my view, that's the time I'm going to pull my pants up and get it together and start going into a position that I believe in. I'm not going to be, that because I believe in this asset. That's the one thing I wanted to say. All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kudo. That was 4 sentences. Yeah, keep your pants on because Lauren's not here.
So look, all I'm saying is, when you mention peak fiat, okay, I get really comfortable with my Bitcoin position because I know, hey, there's no stopping this now. Okay, this is the drug they use. If you were a drug addict, you would be injecting heroin or whatever you can get your hands on, and that's what they're going to do here. They're going to print money. They're going to print money in so many different ways. And I think if people look, I think the Burry thing is very interesting, but Michael Burry is a habitual shorter, habitual bear. He has an opinion. He almost went fucking broke because Wall Street has a way of playing games on shorts that, like, it's probably unfair, but nonetheless, these markets can go on longer than I can, stay solvent because their bags are so much bigger. Once this gets played out and you hit peak fiat, Bitcoin's going to take over. I mean, to me, the story we're seeing play out on IBM and MU and ADM and all these other legacy companies seeing 100% bumps, dude, this is the Bitcoin story. This has to happen before Bitcoin can do its thing. That's what I think. Until people go, oh wow, fiat is worse than toilet paper. Like, I used my garage toilet paper story in 2001 as a real story, dude. My housekeeper hasn't bought toilet paper in 4 years, and we just realized the price is much higher than it was. Like, I made a triple on toilet paper. I made more
Maybe you
money.
changed your diet,
I
Gary.
made more money on toilet paper than I made on Bitcoin. Seriously, man. Okay, now I think that one day, if toilet paper can make it, then Bitcoin's going to do exceptionally well. But you got to hang through. The money's going everywhere but Bitcoin right now. I mean,
Hey,
that's
Thomas is back up
thank
here
you.
too when you're done, Gary. Yeah,
Well,
no,
I'll be
no. You
quiet.
want to
No,
keep talking about toilet paper?
well,
No. I mean,
prices determine the value of money.
well, yeah. I mean, is that double ply toilet paper? Well, I mean, that goes a little longer. Thomas, speaking of
When
toilet
you're
paper,
buying many, when you're just buying the toilet paper, you just buy as much as you can. You don't necessarily worry about the quality.
you're the reason those shelves were empty during COVID.
Half of it for sure, and I'll do it again too. Okay, I have no shame over hoarding when hoarding is actually a really cool move, and people should be buying a bunch of shit right now. Like, I think
Well, if
stuff
there's
is
only 21 million toilet paper rolls, I'm going to get them. Thomas, speaking of toilet paper, how's it going with you?
Good. I set up my office out in the pool, and I had bad Wi-Fi, so I came back inside. So anyway, I've been listening to the conversation. I'm very sympathetic to Gary's point of view. I mean, I do think that there was a sentiment shift in large capital flows at the beginning of May, and we channeled down, and I think most of it's institutional rotation out of Bitcoin into other things. And so Bitcoin sits in a capital ecosystem, and there's a competition for marginal capital. And some of the high flying AI stocks are capturing a lot of attention. Now, I personally don't think that these AI stocks, if you look at something like Micron Technology, I mean, it's up 5% a day. Almost every day is crazy. I don't know what it's trading at now, like 1,050 or something like that. It's nuts, and I don't think it's sustainable. Meaning that there's going to be there'll be some sobering up. And again, I just go back to what we all know is true. Long term, Bitcoin emerges as the asset. You just have to be able to have a long term thesis and accept the fact that it may underperform in the short term, which it looks like it's doing right now.
Look, people held on to gold for a decade, and everybody made fun of them. Everybody. So I don't know why people are worried. Like, I'm not worried. Simply, my question is, how many of these Bitcoin can I buy? I'm not going to pay 75 if I think I can buy it at 55 or 62. Why would I do that, man? I'm trying to buy a
Well, because how
lot.
will it matter, Gary, when we're over a million in 2033? That's probably
Well,
why. You know what I mean? You're just like looking at it at short term in a sense.
yeah, but it's weak, dude. Why would I go in here and it's weak?
Yeah, but
Like,
when I was picking up and it's going up and down and all the way up to 69 and down to 15 and up to 21 and down to 4, and I look back and I was fixating in these time periods where we were sideways at 6,000 like forever. We were sideways at 9,000 forever. We were sideways at 12,000 forever. And like all of that, I'm like, I would kill to have it at 3 times that now. Anyway, that's the way I look at it, but you're a lot smarter than me, Gary, so I don't know.
I don't know about that.
That's true. That was a little bit of a
It's just money flows,
catfish.
man. It's just money flows, okay? And the attention is not on Bitcoin right now. Look, Bitcoin has a marketing problem, guys, and it's not a part of the club, which is something I am very, very used to being. Not a part of the club. I don't talk like the club. I don't play like the club. And so, guess what happens? The club normally wins, okay, for a long time, and then I finally get some traction. I only need a disruptor only needs a small portion of a large addressable market. Like every business I've ever built never got over 2% penetration of the addressable market. And we were making uh, hundreds of millions of dollars. These markets are so big. So I look at Bitcoin and go, wow, you're so small. You just need a tiny piece of this. But when the TradFi regular people hear you guys are saying, Bitcoin's going to take over everything. And the white man who's got a bunch of money sitting around goes, Bitcoin's going to do what? See, it's just so hard for them to imagine. That's why you have so few real families like really moving into this. They understand IBM, man. Some of them have held, I owned by IBM since I was 25 years old. I don't even know how many shares I have, but I'm quite sure the price is much higher. I think it's up 1,800%. But why would I want to be in an 1,800% mover when Microsoft has moved 187,000% in that same time period? I mean, I think
I just
I think Microsoft's going to make a monster move here. And they're not doing much, okay? I mean, if I start looking at all these companies, I'm like, wow, Microsoft is not doing anything. Not really. It's 370 was its price at 370 was back in 26 of March, and now it's trading at 461, $100 up. It's $100 up in like I don't know, since May the 28th. 3 days, man. It's up from 413 to 461. 15% move, which is not really that big for what everything else has done. It's just hard for me not to look at some of these, right? And see the money flows. Remember, to move a company that much, the size of IBM, we're not talking about, moving pickle prices here, dude. These are big corporations. $3.3 trillion corporation is Microsoft. And it moved 15%. See, it's starting to do what NVIDIA did last year and the year before, remember? $250 billion moves on NVIDIA in one day. Where were the 100 analysts that review that company? Zero got it right. So I would remain that these markets are supposed to be efficient. And what we're seeing here in the last 3 weeks is anything but efficient.
So what are you saying? It's like the Dave Weisberger hot ball of money theory. Is that kind of your point?
I don't know what the hot ball of money is, but um, I, I mean, if you go
It's
look, and
just
I
that
think, go ahead.
go. No. He'll just kind of talk about it's all these traders and all this liquidity in the market. And it's just this hot ball of money. It seems like it just gets passed around. And, NVIDIA is the thing. And everyone piles into that, right? And doesn't make any sense. And then they pull out in this other thing. I was curious what you're saying because you're saying it wasn't efficient. If it was kind of that idea, it's just the market swinging around kind of erratically.
Well, when I say markets are priced, Wall Street claims that their markets are efficient and that, the price of every equity is pretty good. And we've seen 1 or 2, 3, 4, outliers that change, people just got it wrong. Bro, we're seeing Oracle, HP, Hewlett Packard, IBM, Dell, BlackBerry, and Nokia all up one day, 10% today. Friday, they were
Hey,
all up 10%. These are companies that
for,
are 28, 30, 40 years old.
forgive me for putting it in this metric or this lens. But the asymmetry of, let's say you get involved in any minute, and I feel everything you're saying, and I know you've been around, and I don't disagree at all because I feel it too. And I actually, when I put my TradFi lenses on, I agree. And then I go, wait a minute, hang on for a minute. What are you doing and why? And where I'm driving to this is that, what's your risk reward on Bitcoin here? If when, what do you think the worst case floor would be? Pick a number.
55.
Okay, great. So you got a $20,000 bet, fluctuation. I guess 15 at the moment. You have $15,000 downside. Now, what's your upside in 5 years? What do you think it's going to be? This is in dollar terms too, which I don't really love doing. But what do you think it's going to be in 5 years? And when I put that risk reward together versus the risk
What do you think
reward,
it'll be? Because I don't know. I don't know. What I do know is Bitcoiners have been wrong about the fiat price of Bitcoin. No
all
one's,
right, tell you
no
what.
one,
If you want
no
to,
one,
I only ever,
Chodo, though.
if you
In
ever,
fairness, okay, like there are a
yeah.
thousand smarter people than me in Bitcoin and have been around longer than me. Not one, this is what I love about Bitcoin. Not one human being has gotten it right. Not one.
Look, I'll make a bet with you right now, okay? And I only ever bet a dollar, so I know this isn't going to sound exciting to you, but I will bet you that by 5 years today that we will be above $272,000 in Bitcoin price.
Well, I would be very, very disappointed
No,
if
that's
it's only
bearish.
300 grand, bro. See,
Yeah,
see,
that's
see,
Well,
this
that's
is my
bearish.
fine. You
point.
can you can be disappointed, but this is
Well,
my point. Hang on for a second. If it's a $15,000 downside and I have 100, what's that? $200,000 upside. That's a 10 to 1. Dude, I'm crazy. I'm like, this is back to what Kudo was saying. Like, that's the trade I'm taking. It's going to be horribly uncomfortable. I mean, this next 6 months, if you're right, and I think you are, by the way, is going to suck
yeah.
because the whole summer I'm going to have to put up with all my TradFi friends. Hey, Dark's in this. Dark, hop in.
Well,
Yeah,
hold
Dark,
on. To
come
that
back
point,
to us.
I want to make a quick point about what Gary said. Gary, the thing I'm hearing on Twitter is I hear, and these are like Bitcoiners talking like this. They're like, man, I should have sold all my Bitcoin and just gone all into tech stocks, all tech stocks, tech stocks. It's like, what are we thinking here? Tech stocks are at all-time highs right now, and Bitcoin sentiment is in the gutter. And we're gonna sell Bitcoin now and fucking plow it into the thing that's
Well,
at a
now,
euphoric all-time high
now,
spot.
kudo, now, kudo.
That is a horrible trade.
Yeah, but kudo. No one, including me, said anything about selling Bitcoin. I'm
I know.
just
I
not
wasn't
going to
saying to
buy
yourself,
Bitcoin here. Like I have a
yeah.
bunch of Bitcoin, guys. Listen, let's remember, I own a shitload of Bitcoin. Okay, so I am not selling my Bitcoin. I'm just saying I'm not going to buy 70 when I think I can buy 66. And if I miss it, if it doesn't go to 55 or 60 or 60, I do believe we will test 60 again. The market should test Bitcoin at 62, 61, just to see. Wouldn't you guys like to know? Hey, can it hold 61? I'd like to fucking know. Can it hold 61 or not? If it doesn't, it's not the end of the world, dude. I'm going to buy 500 fucking Bitcoin below
Oh,
that
I'd stomach
price. That's
60 if we could
awesome.
wipe out knockout.
$500 of Bitcoin, Gary? I
Yeah.
figured you'd buy a little bit more than that.
Yeah,
Wow.
500 bucks a Bitcoin. So,
Okay,
like,
wow.
I think
Interesting.
that needs to happen, right? I hope that moment happens. And maybe the answer is I don't do anything. I just sit on cash and wait.
I think the bear markets are the purifying fire. Sometimes we need to shake out the parasites. Like I want to see Naka liquidated.
Well, that is going to happen, bro. So, Bitcoin can do whatever it's going to do. Naka's going to liquidate.
So, Gary, I think that Bitcoiners have been wrong about global liquidity, right? It's really tight. We've got the 10-year bond, pushing 4.5 again, 30-year bond right up at 5%. And then if you look at Japan, it's even worse. Their markets are just crap. And then even the British markets are we have a global bond apocalypse that is staring down the barrel. At the same time, going back to the discussion earlier, risk is being transferred to those that can't afford it. Right. So when I look at that entire equation, it screams problems. And I do think we've been dead wrong about global liquidity. I thought rates we're coming down. Rates need to come down. And going back to what, before all this kicked off, you guys were talking about stable coins. So my question, and I think this is a really valid question, right? If you think stable coins are going to bail out the bond market, what happens to the banks? Because if Americans put their money in stable coins, then the banks are going under. Stable coins are fully reserved. The banks are fractionally reserved. The banks need those deposits. There's a reason why Epstein's banker is screaming and losing his cool on TV, right, about these stable coins. So I'm not sure where this all goes, but the thought that you're going to transfer American assets into or just assets in general out of banks and into stable coins, that doesn't make any sense unless you plan on blowing up the entire US banking system, which maybe they do, I don't know. But you can't have both. You can't, those two things are antithetical to each other. Fully reserve banking and fractional reserve banking, they can't play side by side. The same way Bitcoin is the antithesis of fiat. So, going back to peak fiat, Gary, because I think that is the main discussion to have right now. We are no doubt at peak fiat. Now, how long we can stay there, I don't know. But the system cannot last much longer once you reach peak. Right? Once you reach peak, you've got only one place to go. I'll land it there.
Yeah, Dark. I just think Bitcoin is competing with capital right now, and we know again that we don't have to repeat the long term thesis, but for Bitcoin to catch the bid that goes 2x, 5x on the price, there needs to be some dislocation and disruption in the market. Right now, we don't have that. We see signs of stress in the bond market for sure, but I mean, if I walked into a family office and I recommended an allocation into the Anthropic IPO, or I recommended an allocation to Bitcoin, I would say 95 times out of 100 they're going to pick Anthropic. That's just who that class of people are. They're not. They're if they like Bitcoin, they're already in. There's no new narrative that says, "Hey, I need to get there." Now we know that if the shit hits the fan here, all these high flyers, including Microsoft, everybody, they're going to take a gut punch, right? And I think that's when Bitcoin does well, but it requires a dislocation in the macro markets.
So, does it require a dislocation or a policy error? And maybe those two things are the same. But from my perspective, you need to see a policy move towards lower rates because we can't look the peak fiat system that we're describing can't take higher rates, right? Higher rates mean more debt, which means higher rates, which means more debt, and that becomes a doom loop. And we're entering that doom loop now, which will destroy the economy. I just look. I don't know if we go down. I hate
Well,
talking about Bitcoin
aren't
price,
they?
but
But on the CME projections, and I'm not arguing with you, Dark, but they're projecting. I mean, the CME projections for the end of 2026, early 2027 are projecting rate hikes at this point. So it seems like we're headed there. Would you agree or no?
okay, yeah. So let's talk about what happens with rate hikes. Well, you tell me what happens. You raise rates.
Well,
We're going to be rolling over short-term debt at even higher prices. Our interest expense is going to blow out towards 2 trillion over the next couple of years. It doesn't work. Like you get into a doom loop. So I understand what they're projecting, and I understand sort of the global macro picture caused by the war. I don't I don't
how do
understand
you
what they're thinking.
understand it, Dark? I mean, you've been here for the last month banging the drum that they're going to force to cut rates. I mean,
They have to. Like they have to. It's not a matter of
in the
whether.
meanwhile, in the last month, for September, we went in from pricing in a 14% of a rate cut to now a 30% possibility of a rate hike.
But remember,
I think
those
October's around
guys.
40%,
So this is
38%.
this is peak fiat because you're pointing to a derivatives complex, right? Which is driven by, who's short and who's long. And, like, again, who cares what they're pricing in?
No,
Let's
Dark,
just
we're
step
trying to
back.
describe to you the world as it is today, and you're trying to describe to us this fantasy that you've created where, oh yeah, the Fed has to cut, and that's where the dislocation is people have a hard time believing Bitcoiners is because when you talk to them, sometimes you guys will go on tangents about how you want the future to be and not, as it is right now in reality.
What I'm explaining to you is that you're entering a doom loop that's going to be very difficult to escape. So maybe you're right, right? Maybe the guys at the CME have it right. I can tell you, I've been around long enough and have dealt with the CME long enough to know how many times they've been wrong, right? You ask, 10 economists, you get 11 opinions. I, I, I'm just telling you from a macroeconomic standpoint, we can't get higher rates. Higher rates mean higher interest expense, which means higher deficits, which means higher rates, right? Like that's just, you enter that doom loop. If your position is, look, we're entering the doom loop, like it or not, and we're going to absolutely blow everything up by entering the doom loop. Okay, that's the way you view the world. See, I view the fiat system differently. I view it as a bunch of guys that are sitting around with a bunch of levers, and they're trying to keep the system moving, right? And if they don't have a lever to fix a problem, they create one. Right? That's what history tells me. So, do I think that the policymakers are going to go ahead and take everything into a doom loop? I don't.
So
Matter of fact, history tells me they never do.
so we've got, I mean, these next few inflation prints are going to be the worst of it, right?
I
Best
don't
case
know.
scenario for cuts was if this whole ordeal was resolved and we wouldn't still be chugging down the strategic petroleum reserve. Now, at a minimum, if a deal was to be signed today, you have a 60-day ceasefire, then additional 30 days to remove the mines and free up the ships, and then another 3 to 4 weeks of travel. So at a minimum, you have 4 months until things quote unquote go back to normal. I don't see how the Fed could cut with its hands tied. People, are going to be sitting at the gas pump looking at $7 for fuel. I mean, right now it's what, like around $5 to $6. Um, the lever they have to pull is the hike. I'm not sure for how long they're going to hike. It might just be one,
Well,
and then they'll pause again.
answer me something. How does hiking rates help your inflation issue? If your inflation issue, as you just described, is a supply issue, right? We don't, oil prices are high because there's not enough oil. How does hiking rates do anything to fix that?
Well, they have to reduce the liquidity in the system. I mean, the bonds are screaming higher. You're gonna have a
I
10 year,
get it.
five
I'm
to
just
ten
saying you're
years from
not.
now at ten
That's not an
percent.
answer. That's not an answer to my question, right? The question was very simple. How does hiking rates increase the supply of oil?
As
It tightens liquidity. There's less dollars in the
yeah,
system, right? So then prices have to go up because there's less dollars. Sorry, prices have to go up because there's less dollars in the system.
Wait, price would go which way?
If they pull liquidity, if there's less dollars in the system,
Okay.
right? That's what
Yeah.
happens when they hike rates.
Okay. Yeah, I
it
understand what happens. So how does
Kuda
that reduce
Kuda. It
prices?
means it. These kind of arguments are pretty useless with Dark. He'll pin straight down on what he believes, and he'll drive you in circles around trying to get you
I'm
to
asking if
agree with him. There's no point in
But I
arguing
do,
with you, Dark.
but hold on. I do think I think Dark's directionally correct in the largest sense. It's like they are trapped, right? The U.S. government is trapped with its debt, and if we raise rates, it raises the interest, the government repayment, and so they are trapped. I think it's a valid question to ask, like, will rates go up a little bit more later,
This
like
is why
later this
Duke
year? But
Authority
I
is
think
saying we're getting stimmy checks instead. Stimmy checks are the band-aid that don't do that much liquidity because it's just a little amount. And then they can basically pretend they did something.
again, no one's answered my
yeah,
question. I don't understand how higher rates solve a supply crisis. Like, okay, money gets tight. Are you is your position that when money gets tight, people stop driving? If you raise interest rates a quarter of a basis, a quarter of a point, okay, do people stop driving?
Can't rate place. That's dumb.
Of course. Like,
Can't
and
happen.
I'm being called like this guy's calling me an idiot, and I'm like, wait a minute, like answer the question. The
Or
answer is it
no one's
doesn't.
calling
It
you an
doesn't
idiot.
fit.
You're just so, you know, stubborn on your point of view. There's no point in going back and forth here. You've been banging the drum about rate cuts for the last month and a half. Every day you come in here and say the same thing, and the market's moving the opposite way. There's no point of going back and forth.
Okay. Look, there's those people that look into the future, and there's those people that look backwards. I don't know what to tell you. You can stare at the charts, and you can. I get what you see. I understand it. It just doesn't. You have to use logic when you try to anticipate what policymakers are going to do. And I don't understand how like your thesis is because rates are going higher, that they have to raise interest rates. No, because interest rates are going higher, they're going to have to buy bonds. They're going to have to step in and intervene. We live in an
They've already been
interventionist
buying
economy.
bonds. They have $1 trillion in unrealized losses on the Fed's balance sheet due to buying bonds.
I get it, man. Like this is peak fiat. The fiat system is an interventionist system. It's not a sit. This like you're speaking to us as if we actually live in a free market where rates are driven by market forces. They're not. The Fed currently is buying bonds. We're currently buying bonds, right? We're monetizing debt. I think to the tune of $40 billion a month. That number could go to 100 billion tomorrow. And why wouldn't it? Why would they not intervene in a system that's about to blow them up? Like, I'm sorry, like, I'm just waiting for a logical explanation of why policymakers will not intervene when you have a supply crisis. Because the inflation we're seeing right now is not being driven by anything other than a supply crisis, which is not going to be fixed by raising interest rates.
Hey, can I just make a
Great
comment
point.
here through an observation? Just listening to talk, that kind of think that it sounds like they're opposing, but I thought of the game of Monopoly, and I don't know how many of you guys have played the game of Monopoly lately, but I think it would be. I would like to hold a spaces one night and actually play the game of Monopoly. I don't know if anyone has ever finished the game of Monopoly, but if you get to the end, you'll note that the rules state that when you get to the end, somebody goes broke. You get out blank pieces of paper and write out, here's $10,000. Now you can stay in the game.
Just print money, Gary.
Everyone should own the game of Monopoly. You should play it and realize why the game never ends. Okay, this is the game, and this is why what's his name and Dark are arguing with each other. I've been wondering, I'm like, why do Bitcoiners argue with each other? It's like, oh wow, dude, because we are part of this game. Okay, and we're just in the game, and shit's going on in this game that we don't understand, and we're getting angry with each other because all we're trying to do is understand this is a Monopoly game, guys. And at the end, people pull out pieces of paper and write down numbers on them and give it to a player so he can stay in the game. That's it. It's a game. We're all in this little game, dude. Anyway, I just thought I'd say that so that it reduces some of the tension between us because we're not causing these
Yeah.
problems, right?
Look,
Yeah,
Gary,
well, and I
the
also think
tension is also
dark.
the tension. One sec. The tension is also caused by people making their arguments personal. Right. This is about I've done this, I've done that. Right. Look, I respect your opinion, but you don't respect mine. You want to come up here and make your point and try to make this a personal attack. Good for you. Congratulations.
Not personal at all, Dork. Like I said, every time we have these conversations, I end it with, hey, I don't agree with him, but I respect his views, and that's why we have these open conversations.
Well,
I
that's
have
better.
nothing personal
That's a
against
good
you.
way. That's a good way to approach it. But that's
That's
not the way you presented it earlier. You said every
how I
time I come
do.
up here, I do this and I do that, and yet everything's going differently. Fine. Look, man. The beautiful thing about this: take your money and bet on higher rates. Go make a bet, man. You don't have to yell at me. Go make a bet. Put your money where your mouth is. If not, maybe keep your opinion, to a reasonable critique, which is fine. I have no problem with you critiquing my opinions.
Hey guys, before we go to Bit Blanca, Gary, I love that you brought that up. And for people that don't know, it's like the the game Monopoly really is quintessential for peak fiat and the fiat system. And I just pulled it up, and it's rule number 11 in the Monopoly game. It's there right now in your regular Monopoly game, and it says, "What if the bank runs out of money?" Well, players may think the bank is bankrupt if it runs out of money, but it's not. The bank, remember, think of central banks, the bank never goes bankrupt. To continue playing, use slips of paper to keep track of each player's banking transactions until the bank has enough paper money to operate again. The banker may also issue new money on slips of ordinary paper. And this is exactly what happens, which is why we have no scarcity and why they just continue to debase the currency that we have to earn in and pay taxes in.
And that's why no one has ever finished a game of Monopoly without the family hating one member or another.
Yeah, or you just get bored and
Think
say, let's
about
go
it.
eat some brownies.
Has anyone, yeah, that'd be awesome. Has anyone finished the game of Monopoly? Like, I don't remember finishing a game. We just got angry with each other and I wanted to kill Grant for getting all the shit on Broadway, man.
Yeah, well,
And this is what happens, though, right? In real life.
Did Grant 10x his real estate holdings on Monopoly?
Dude, I don't know, but I think he or I went to the hospital 2 or 3 times over playing it. So, that it just made me, I started laughing because I'm like, wow, dude, we are literally playing a Monopoly game. Well, our emotions are similar to how it ends in a Monopoly game. Everybody's exhausted. Nobody knows how they got the shitty, nobody understands the game because they don't read the rules. How many people see people read the Monopoly rules? Nobody reads the rules anymore. So
Yeah, now
anyway,
imagine a system where the central bank has a issuance schedule that we all know and we all agree to, and we're the ones that have to do the work to bring the money into the system. Mind explosion, yeah. Hey, Puncher, you are back. Where did you go? Oh, really? Okay, yeah, sounds like he was having some bagels.
Terrence, what does the government call it when they print the money and give it to people?
You mean money printing?
Stimmy checks.
Well, yeah, stimmy checks, UBI, 0% credit, um, reducing debt, killing student loans, anything. There's like money printing in various forms, quantitative easing, and they're going to call it something else. I have no idea what they're going to call it this time, but it'll be some some phrase that sounds something like economic. This is the economic feasibility heuristic, and it's like, well, what is that? Oh, well, it's money printing. We're putting more dollars into the system.
Yeah, I think they're going to bait the hook with a stimmy check, and then they're going to tell everyone to get your next stimmy checks, you've got to join the stablecoin grift, and then you get it all in stablecoins. I think that's going to be the baited hook for it.
Yeah, that's what we want. Expirable money. So let's incentivize you to consume rather than create. You better go spend it now. And these are the hours you have to spend it. And this is the zip code you have to spend it. And based on how you voted or what your social posts were or political views, they're gonna just force you into their borders. Bit Blanca, sorry
What's up?
about that. Let's go with Thomas 2.0.
What's up, guys? Just a question for Dark. Dark, I think I know where you fall on this, but to what degree do you think our markets are manipulated? And when you look out, across our public markets, do you even think anything's investable right now, or kind of where's your thought process on that?
Yeah, it's such a great question. It goes back to what I was just saying, right? Like we live in an interventionist economy, right? At every level, in order to keep fiat moving, they've got to pull a lever, and if the lever doesn't exist, they create the lever. So everything's being intervened in all the time, right? Like we don't have a free market. Gary always says this. I always say this. There's nothing free about the way the fiat system works. So, do I think the market's investable? It's such a good question. I have no idea. I choose not to because to me,
Dark,
I don't know where the next intervention's coming from.
does anybody think that the system in its current form can survive to say pick a number 2030 with the exploding debt,
And then even beyond some of the financial stuff, maybe it's just my X feed, but I see a tremendous amount of antisocial behavior in society that's manifesting, and we're almost becoming uncivilized. Now, maybe other people don't see that in their feed, but I see it a lot. And I just wonder, I don't believe that the system is sustainable to 2030, but it certainly could be sustainable for the next 3, 6, 9 months, where we try to act like everything is normal. We just have this, that, and the other thing going on. But again, if you think out to 2030, I actually forget about Bitcoin, forget about investments. I'm concerned about the country.
Well,
And
Thomas
go ahead.
and Dark, like on that, your story that you described earlier. Are we just not in a phase of the intervention where we just have direct investment in companies that are state sponsored kind of agendas, right? Like, is that where we're at, where we're just
Bro, that's
seeing
where we're
these?
going, dude. I guarantee
Yeah,
you. Okay.
yeah.
And that is a different, see, that's a world that Thomas and I and Dark have never lived in, where governments see. One thing, I think this market has been intervened in forever, and more intervention leads to more intervention. So you can say it's look, it's always been intervened on, so it's not new. And I'm not sure this is the end, Thomas. I think this will last for, I mean, to me now, it depends on how stupid and political this thing gets. And it's politics now. I don't think it's about the money. I think it's about the power. And
Isn't it about national security though, Gary, to a
well,
certain degree?
they're going to say that. But I do believe that if you get, a hemorrhoid over the United States government owning 10% in Westinghouse, 10% in Intel, 10% in IBM, 10% in everything, or 20 or 30, I think you're going to be really upset, because there is no way that the United States of America can compete on the global scale when China will support every one of its corporates. It doesn't mean it's going to create great intervention. Doesn't mean it's going to be efficient. It just means the government of the United States is going to invest and support U.S. corporations. Period. It is our military in reality. I would much rather support our corporations, our innovation, our intelligence than fucking guns and
Yeah, but
military people, and bring our military people back here, and let's build some highways, dams, and power grids, okay, or underground power grids, or science. This is so solvable, other than people wanting more and more and more power.
I agree
I
completely,
actually
Gary.
think it
But
goes on because they have a lot of tools to reset shit. Okay. And if they take all our 401ks and all our money market accounts and all, like he said it on TV 4 days ago, we are going, and they have the congressional right to do it now. So if you have money sitting in a 401k, they have the right to invest it in AI. Dude, I think that could be, look, they have to do something. If you're sitting there, you cannot hold your dick in your hand through this experience. You have to do something, and we need a Henry Paulson here. This is a think of it as a patient in an emergency room. You're not going to have much time to, like, go to Harvard and go, hey, write me a program of how I buy exactly the amount of right Bitcoin. They're just pulling every lever they can. Actually, the more I think about it, I'm like, man, this could be a huge opportunity, because I don't think we're going to fail. And are we going to go into a depression? Maybe. Bitcoin will do great there, man.
Do you think interventions in public companies will continue after this regime?
Absolutely, bro.
Hey, Gary, some of the
They're
girls
like,
just DM'd me. They said they don't have a dick, so they were wondering what that metaphor meant.
most girls have control over more dicks than guys do. So let's not start talking about
Great
girls
answer.
not having
Great answer.
dicks.
That's true.
Okay, they get to rent the dick. They don't have to own it.
Gary, the point I want to make is I agree with everything you just said. One main difference between China and the U.S. is China will nationalize the industry. Right?
Yeah,
They're
so
not going
will
to
we,
allow
bro.
the
So will we.
well, that's it, right?
If
And I agree,
necessary,
right?
so will we.
Well, that listen, at some level, I
We'll do
think that's
oil.
going to be
Well, yeah, we'll do oil before we do Michael Saylor, though. See, this is where we get the Bitcoiners, I think, get a little, their penis gets a little bit too big for their britches. is that like
I hate when that happens.
exactly me too, dude. It happens so often. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, like they're going to invest in ExxonMobil, dude. They don't need to nationalize the oil companies. They're not. Oil companies are already nationalized. They do what they're told to do because they're going to get the regulatory support. Let's face it, okay? And I think the regulatory support, like look at ExxonMobil. The gentleman asked me in 5 years, are you telling me ExxonMobil is not a good purchase here? There isn't any AI without ExxonMobil. It's down 2.5% for the year, while
And Prince
IBM's
Oil,
up
Gary.
25%. I mean, think about that. Am I, as a Bitcoiner, not going to look at ExxonMobil and go, without electricity, I don't have any Bitcoin? Huh. Maybe I should invest in it. I think ExxonMobil, I cannot believe I'm talking about ExxonMobil. Okay, but they're not going away, and they will most certainly be one of the engineering companies to service the electric load for America.
It's
Can
all
anybody
about
disagree with
energy.
that? Right?
Didn't we just set the precedent for that this year with the Intel investment?
Yeah, dude. Westinghouse, 10% with Westinghouse. What does Westinghouse do? Build nukes, man. They don't just build washing machines, they build nuclear power stations. So if you read the tea leaves and I get away, look, I'm upset with Trump as anybody. But if I read the tea leaves, oh, wow, I see what's happening here, dude. We're going to own a part of everything. And
Yeah,
I
it's full
agree
command
with that.
economy.
We will actually be better as a country owning an investment in these companies because we'll reduce regulation. I would rather less regulation and the U.S. government is a partner, as a clear partner, not a backdoor Facebook partner who hey, you got to share all your information with us. Like I want to see it on paper.
Who's the guy that said that the Chinese are communists, that moonlight is capitalists, and that the capitalists, the Americans, are basically moonlighting as Marxists in the background? Who is that?
That was probably Lauren.
No, but it seems like the Chinese model is what most of the Western world is trying to move towards. I mean, you look at the surveillance state in the UK, it's just copy paste.
So Dark, really, like just rounding out that conversation, the only real investable method moving forward is to choose a state-sponsored industry.
Dark did not like that question, so he just jumped.
Or maybe Thomas 2.0. I don't know.
Yeah,
My elder man.
I would say, I would say to that thesis, I would be, if you're going to have investments outside of Bitcoin, I know many of us do, I would be exposed to the energy sector. Do your own research. Exxon's a play, Chevron. There's a lot of energy service companies. Just do your own research. There's a lot there. You can't operate the world without energy, and it's the highest. Abundant energy is directly correlated to an abundant economy.
Well, and it's the only thing that we can't fake in
100%
the
correlation,
world that we're
Thomas.
going into, and the more and more AI sort of proliferates and saturates our world, it's all about the energy. And Bitcoin is the only thing that sort of dematerializes energy into the digital world for us.
The other thesis that I would have is that domestic semiconductors, so Intel, Texas Instruments, are going to receive very favorable conditions all the way up to investments from the U.S. because that is a national security issue. Our exposure to Samsung and Taiwan Semiconductor for critical components is not going to be resolved overnight, but certainly you have to start addressing that now. Intel's already got a nice book of orders coming in, but it just takes time to build this stuff out. And so I like, I would look at SpaceX coming out, some of the domestic companies that define our U.S. Prowess on the world stage. They're going to have very favorable treatment. So I would make sure you have some exposure to some of those if you like them. Just again, do your own research. Not all of them are going to do well. I do think there's a little bit of froth in the AI market, but I wouldn't bet against any of it.
And which means they'll all have exposure to Bitcoin too. It's just pretty incredible to think about all of the Bitcoin that SpaceX and
Well,
Tesla's been
ultimately,
buying.
Terrence, the AI wants your Bitcoin.
Oh, well, exactly. What else would they
Does
use?
anybody think that's not
And it
true?
doesn't take them 10 years to get orange pilled. And within seconds, they have all the information available to them and are able to like say, yeah, I want this because no company, no government, no one's going to stop me. And now I can interact with my sub agents. I can get things done and I can hire meat puppets, like Puncher. Say, hey, Puncher, go over here and get me a bagel.
Do you think
There's
Puncher's
a
soul is
future of
gold?
AI that has where agentic AI starts to operate independently from human control, and I think we're probably damn close to that. But that doesn't mean human systems go away overnight. They could coexist for a period of time. Doesn't matter, 5, 10 years. It really doesn't matter. In that coexistence period, you're going to need a medium of exchange between the AI digital realm and the human systems. Now, you have to decide, what do you think that medium of exchange is going to be? Are they going to pick something that has that can be manipulated and controlled and adjusted by the humans? I don't think so. And that's probably the best argument for Bitcoin. Now, what could they do? I mean, I wouldn't rule this out 100%. I think it's doubtful because of the liquidity issues, but they could create their own new coin. I suppose that's possible. But why do that when Bitcoin is already there and has deep liquidity and it trades 24/7 and it's
Well,
decentralized?
plus all AIs
So,
won't agree with each other. So if they create their own coin, there's going to be adversarial AIs that create their own coin. And then eventually they just leads them all back to Bitcoin.
yeah, so Bitcoin ends up as a neutral monetary asset between human systems and AI systems. And I would just challenge anybody to think of another one. And so now you have to go back and say, do we think that agentic AI is going to come? Recursive, self-improving AI structures that are going to redraw their boundary conditions, secure their own assets, and operate without limited human oversight. I think that's coming if it's not already here. I mean, it's very soon. And so you tell me if there's another asset that is neutral, that spans between the AI world and the human world. And I can't think of one other than Bitcoin. And when that happens, then you see a rise in the price of Bitcoin that is face peeling, in the sense that the AI doesn't have any emotive issues around nominal price. To them, it's a mechanism. And if they can get some, they can get more. And it's going to progress exponentially. So when that happens, it could move very fast. And again, I would just think it through. Think through all the scenarios. Now that doesn't mean that we're not going to 58 in the next 3 weeks. That could absolutely happen. But that's got nothing to do with what I just said.
What about
Thomas,
stables?
this would be a good topic for you to lead a track at Alpha. I love this topic, and you're the perfect person for this
Why
Yeah.
won't AI use stables? If we're trying to think of all the
because those
scenarios.
can be censored and they can be stopped and they can be turned off, and they don't have
So,
full agent because an AI agent wants full agency.
does
Yeah,
it?
it wants to be able to perform its tasks. It wants to.
Well,
I think that might be true, but if we're trying to think of all scenarios, it might not prioritize that to the
they
same
may,
degree that you do,
Mark,
Terrence.
they may use
It might just
stable.
want a low volatility, highly liquid, exchangeable, medium
Yeah.
exchange asset like a
Yeah, but
stablecoin.
I think
So
eventually it
that's
runs into
their
problems.
point.
Oh, go ahead, Thomas.
I would say Mars, they could use stables as a transactional token. They will not use it as a store of value.
Yeah, but
Sure.
also with AI, I mean, presumably would have to use non KYC assets, right? Otherwise, um, it
Hmm.
wouldn't have access, right?
What
Yo,
does Sam Altman want?
Thomas, what you just said about AI building its own, I had never thought of that. That is a massive threat to banks, not Bitcoin,
Like,
to
what if
banks.
Sam Altman says it's using WorldCoin? Like, what if that's what he decides that ChatGPT is going to use? I
That's
don't
the
think that
reason I don't
matters.
use ChatGPT.
Yeah.
No,
I
but
mean,
I'm making the point that I mean these AIs are built by tech oligarchs,
no, no, no,
right?
no, no. Mars, that's where you're completely wrong. Not even 1%
Well,
wrong. 100% wrong in the sense that these guys are not creating the AI. This is important for everybody to understand. All they're doing is creating the conditions for the AI to create itself. Okay? There's no one who knows how it works. When you start doing, some of the recursive networks and how these artificial neural networks are set up,
Yo, Thomas,
nobody understands
what does
how it works.
recursive mean? I hear that term used all the time. I'm like, do I really know what that means?
It's like cursive writing, but you do it again.
So the recursive neural networks are the networks that preceded the transformer architecture that came out from the GPT, and it's basically it's more of a stack of information. And the problem we had back then in the day was the deeper you go in the stack, the memory became foggy, and so the breakthrough of GPT was positional encoding and parallel ingestion. So I probably shouldn't use the term recursive in this
But
sentence,
what
but I
does
guess
recursive mean? Maybe I should go look it up instead of showing my stupidity.
it's like
go
self-improving.
on Wikipedia, Gary, and look up RNN, recursive neural networks, and it explains it pretty easily. But basically, think of it this way: you take inputs and outputs, and you let the system figure it out. Now, we don't know how it figures it out. We just know that it does. Think about that. We like a Tesla car makes a left-hand turn in traffic. There's no one who programmed that to happen. And we don't know why it did what it did. We just know that it did it well. There's no if that then this. There's no programming of this. These things are programming themselves. And all we're doing is setting the conditions. And our ability to set the conditions is waning rapidly because
Okay. But then how can we necessarily conclude that it's already done? They're going to use Bitcoin.
well, you tell me, what is a neutral asset that will span both systems, an AI system and a human system?
I don't know that that's necessarily what they're going to prioritize, as I said earlier.
Well, how are they going to
I think that
secure?
you, as a libertarian-minded sovereign individual, prioritize those things. But as we know in human constructs and systems, not everyone cares about that. And my point is that, I think it's a little silly to say, oh, AI is going to for sure pump our bags, bro. Just you wait. I think we need to consider that it might not prefer Bitcoin. It might
I,
prefer a different
I allow for the
cryptocurrency.
possibility that they create another system, and I said that. I just think that if you were to look at the current portfolio of assets, it is the most logical asset for them to standardize on for store of value. Now, during this transition window where they start to take full agency and control their systems, the human systems will still exist. They'll coexist. There'll be tension between the two systems. It'll last for 5 or 10 or more years. They're going to hire meat puppets, right? And they're going to have the meat puppets do their bidding. They're going to deposit money in your account and have you do things for them, right? And you're going to say, well, I'm not doing that. Well, you don't. The next person will do it for 25,000. Now, where are they getting that money from? The easiest way to do it is from Bitcoin. Now, they can try to do it, and I'm sure they will hack into systems and do all kinds of stuff. But again, I would just think it through and ask yourself at a fundamental level, what is the asset that is most likely to bridge the two systems? Because it has to be neutral, and it can't be controlled by one side. And right now, as it's currently constructed, it's not. And that's
Hey,
not true for any other assets. Tether, stock, U.S. currency, the euro, gold, those are all controlled by humans.
yeah, I hope. Yeah, it's interesting to ponder though, Mars. I liked your question, but Thomas, please consider running a track on that at Bitcoin Alpha. It's a fantastic subject.
Yeah, I'll make a point of that. I'm working on some stuff with Fred and Ben on the agenda of things
Okay.
to talk about. So
Yeah, I pitched him a couple things, but I hope we hear that one. Chodl, I'm not sure if you're there. If you want to take us around the horn. By the way, Chodl is not a cholo. Someone called him cholo today. I've met him in person, and he's definitely not a cholo. He doesn't wear those white, clean shirts with the bandana on his head. And if you're not available, Chodl, we can have Anon take us around.
Happy either way. Let's go back to Natalie to lead us out.
Thanks, Chad. Yeah, just want to say thank you again for today's discussion. Really appreciate everyone's insight and these conversations. That's it. Keep sharing, keep speaking up. Take care, everyone.
Kudo.
No, just yeah. Thanks. Good talking to all of you guys. Appreciate it as always. See you later.
Mars.
Yeah, thanks for having me up. Just came up to talk about AI. I'm not a AI guy. I'm not a tech guy. I don't even run my own node. I just worry that maybe the AI wants to be the central bank. Like what if it decides it wants control of the money supply, and maybe we should consider that.
We should also consider that you're a candy bar.
Thank you.
Chase.
Jace, that's you.
Did I?
Jaes.
Yeah. Did I? I did accidentally request to be a speaker. Sorry. I've
Get
got.
out of here.
Okay, bye. I got construction workers here. I can't talk right now. Thanks. Bye.
Gary.
I thought the discussion today was awesome. Thank you. I like the expanded discussion, and I think you know we're all in this together. And the more eyes on the solution, to me is look. I think at the end of the day, I'm not going to get involved in politics. I just need to get as rich as possible. I think actually that's my advice to everybody: make as much money as you possibly can right now, and don't worry about what AI is going to do or not do. Uh, I've been through so many of these now. They've always presented opportunities. Always. This kind of change is so disruptive. It actually, the independent individual who can make decisions quickly and fix mistakes quickly is in a better position if they're intelligent and thinking and not all traumatized over what did happen or like just, I just think it's a great opportunity. There's going to be a tremendous amount of wealth transferred here. And I have no intention on not getting a little slice of it. It's so much fucking money, folks. And by the way, there's no other game for me to play anyway. So I'm excited. Okay. I think we need data. I need to know where my bias is. I am wrong on timing, and I'm wrong on choices and picks and when to exit often. Okay. I mean, and having more eyes and ears on the ground that know their own bias really helps me make intelligent decisions. I mean, just what Thomas said today, I was like, wow, man, what if I don't really worry about what AI is going to do, but if I was AI, I would build my own shit. Fuck you guys. I don't need your Bitcoin. I don't need your transaction JP Morgan. Like, I don't think it takes a lot to build these things. And we may be underestimating capabilities of AI. So anyway, I'm excited, and I'm excited to be here with a great group of people who are all kind of, we're on this journey. Nobody knows where this is going, man. That's where all the emotions are coming from. We really don't know where we're going. We just know we don't control it. So anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate your efforts.
Well, you'll soon be able to get $500 worth of Bitcoin, Gary. We're rooting for you.
Yeah, well, I won $500 today, and for my little bet with Vol, and I'm not going to buy Bitcoin with it. I told him to smash it out to somebody else, but I lost a cup. No, Bitcoin's up right now, right? Didn't it reverse? So we're all up. Everybody's winning.
Thomas.
Yeah, so
I have a call at the top of the hour. We're going to go through my business partner. We talk a little bit about Bitcoin, but I listen mostly to what he has to say. And I expect to hear a lot about some of the energy markets and the physical world markets. And I just look at some of the investments he was telling me about. 60 days ago, you got a company like Murata, who is a Japanese robotics parts maker. They make the controllers and stuff like that. They're up 200% in 60 days. And I can go down a list of a lot of, you can look at Micron with memory. There's a whole bunch of companies out there. This is stealing the attention of marginal capital. And so I would understand that, because Bitcoin swims in that same capital ocean these other ones are, and people are looking at that saying, hey, I need to get some of that. You look at ServiceNow, that thing is ripping right now. I would have thought that was going to be down, but it's up, and who knows what's going on. So I would use the AI tools to educate yourself. Pick a topic, go deep in that topic. You can't know everything, but you can know more than you know today. So use the topic and go deep into stuff. Ask questions. There's the good thing about using the AI is there's no embarrassment about asking a stupid question. And
You've got 3 mails, Thomas. 3 emails.
there you go. Yeah, that's my getting ready for the next meeting. Anyway, look, it was a great conversation. I'm going to do a little bit more
Wow,
research.
4. Jeez.
Yeah, I'm going to tell him to stop. The next, I'm going to do a little more research, Gary, on if a Bitcoin an AI ecosystem were to develop itself, what would it do? And what my thesis would be that it would not leverage a secure blockchain. I mean, the reason that blockchains are used is to secure it. It's unidimensional in the sense that it sits on the blockchain on a ledger that cannot be tampered with. I do think that the future will be that AI might pursue would be a recombinant token system where the security comes from the combination of tokens that are hard to reassemble without a lot of overhead. And the advantage that AI has is it can do really complex stuff that people couldn't. So one of the challenges that that Satoshi had is design a system that can actually be used by people. And it still is pretty complicated for most people. But imagine a system that's so complex that very few people, if any, could even use it, but AI could use it. So I'm going to do a little more research on that, and I'll talk a little bit about it in the coming days and weeks.
Thomas, tell that person they can put the whole message in one text and they can return so it's in paragraphs. They don't need to send you 5 texts.
It's actually, Terrence, I'm on a Mac system, and it's my text messages coming in. Anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. One text message will suffice.
Yeah.
All right.
It's great. I get into so many chat groups, I don't know why. Sometimes it bings, sometimes it doesn't. I'm an old guy. The 12 is still blinking on my VCR.
Dark.
Incredible space. This reminds me so much of, I guess it was the end of 2006, and a business partner of mine came out to Vegas to look at real estate, and ran into the real estate broker, owned I think 7 properties and was flipping them and renting them, and it was all zero money down. And it became clear to me, like exceptionally clear to me, that this was not sustainable. You fast forward to early 2007, we had a church dinner, six couples, and one of the couples was a husband and wife real estate team. And at this dinner, I'm kind of losing my mind, right? I'm looking at them like, you do realize, like, when you put somebody into something they can't afford, it's going to end badly. And they told me I was crazy, and I mean, it was a really weird dinner, and my wife was kind of mad at me, but I I I knew in my heart of hearts what was going to happen, right? Like, it was so obvious, but it took a long time, right? It took almost a year and a half from that point till the whole thing detonated. And in that year and a half, you had the same things that are happening today with ServiceNow, and you can go right down the list, Micron, SanDisk, right? Like, that was, people cannot see trouble ahead unless they have special glasses on. right? I consider myself blessed to be able to wear these glasses and just be able to look past the insanity of interventionist markets and understand that in the end, like economics has to play out. We learned a lot today. I think that story about Michael Berry and the work he's done and the transferring of risk down to the lowest form of the lowest player in the totem pole. If that's not the ultimate red alert sign for everybody, I don't know what is. Right? Like that once they start transferring risk down to the guy who owns an annuity, right? That's telling you everything you need to know because if it was a good risk, they'd take it. They don't hand away the good stuff. So yeah, I know it's hard to see the forest through the trees at this point, or the trees through the forest, or whatever it is, but you can clearly see where this is going. And just have that conviction that in the end, this all leads to one place.
Well said. By the way, I see you requesting Joyho, but we're just closing out. Oh, looks like someone invited you. Back to you, Chad.
Yeah, I was going to give Joyo a hi and goodbye opportunity here, and then Jace wanted to do the same, so we'll let him go. Joyo.
Oh, hey, thanks for letting me up. Real quick, the last few weeks, I keep hearing service now, and it's the first time in my life where I laugh and I know Dark wasn't bringing it up as a positive, but I use the tool at work, and I just laugh that it's pumping, because if you haven't used service now, it's just software as a service, and I don't know how all these companies' AI doesn't replace them, so not financial advice, but some of these companies, you need to use the tool before you invest. It's scary that what's happening and what they actually provide. It's kind of comical.
Joyo, on the service now, I agree. It's kind. I would almost go to the.
It's like a piece of garbage. Yeah. Go ahead, Thomas.
It's a garbage tool. Why it's getting valuation has to do with this recent $500 million token charge. What ServiceNow already has is it's e-bonded into every system right now and acts as a control layer, or could act as a control layer for the use of AI within a corporate environment. So while it doesn't do that today, and the system right now is far from that, I think it's a bit of a garbage tool myself. It's already set up from a governance perspective and an architectural perspective to do and regulate the use of AI within a corporation. A lot of corporations are concerned about the adoption of AI in the system. They don't want to lose control. They got Sarbanes-Oxley issues and lack of control.
We do. Yeah, we do here.
Yeah, so the lawyers, they want to know, well, why did that happen? And you're like, fuck if I know, the AI did it. That's not a good answer. So ServiceNow is in a position. Now, could you recreate it? Yeah, but good luck. It's hard to get it plugged into the system. It's positionally being priced up. I personally, again, I think it's crazy. It's up 8.7% today. Unbelievable.
So Thomas, let's round this back to tomorrow because we got to wrap it down. But Jace, real quick, what's happening, buddy?
I just great space today. Sorry I couldn't contribute more, but I just wanted to say, if you're following Gary's footsteps and you make a whole bunch of money, hopefully you do something good with it, because I think that's what's going to be most important in our future. Those of us that have Bitcoin will be able to do good in the world. So I just want to leave with that.
Love it, guys. And with that note, excuse the background noise, but have a great day.
I guess we don't go to Anon?
Hop in
All
there,
good. I
Anon.
don't need it. Have a good one.
Okay. Take us out, Chad.
Bitcoin today. Not Bitcoin yesterday. It's Bitcoin today. Today. Not Bitcoin.
It's like you're playing music through a CB radio.